Koze's Daily Brew. Today I wanted to talk about finding your path in life. Now this is something that I actually recently have been journaling about, which is such a lame admittance, but I wanted to bring my journaling to today's video because I wrote down a couple things last night actually that I feel like they're like good questions to ask in terms of trying to find your path. So I figured I would share them with you guys today in case you are journalers, and even if you're not, you can literally just ask yourself these questions and just get like a general better idea of what direction you might want to take with your life. So first things first, if you're feeling like you don't necessarily have a path, I think that you kind of need to set an intention before you set or plan anything. So in terms of like setting an intention, I think that comes from asking yourself, like, why do you feel like you don't have a path? Like, what is it that's making you feel a little directionless? Is it that you feel like you're waking up and kind of going through the motions, but you don't really know what it's all for? Do you feel like you need to find a path because you're noticing that everybody else seems like they're kind of like going towards something and you don't really have that like sense of drive? Because I feel like when you set an intention as to why you're trying to figure out what your path is or why you might be feeling a little directionless, it helps not only, I think, establish exactly what your path should be, but I also think that knowing what your intention is or knowing why you are starting this whole process to begin with is important, because that's going to be like the backbone that keeps you pushing forward once you have set your path. Because I think that finding the path is easy. I think that actually walking your path and actually doing the path is the hard work. And once you know what you want to be doing and once you know what direction you want to start walking in, you actually have to then start walking. So the only thing that's going to give you that gas, the only thing that's going to make you start to move is knowing that you want to get as far away from this feeling of feeling directionless or feeling lost or feeling whatever. Like, you want to just get as far away from that as possible, but only once you know where you're heading. So I was recently listening to the audiobook, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and it's the most, probably, like, I know that this is a little aggressive of me to say, but probably one of the best books that I think I've ever read. And one of the things that he said that was just blowing my freaking mind was that you could have all of like the external things change, but if you don't have the right map, you're still gonna stay lost. Meaning that if you were to walk the path of life, or you were to walk the directions of life, or follow the directions of life, but your map is saying that this is your life, but it's actually not. The way that he described it was like if you were trying to find a place in Chicago and the map said Chicago on the top, but even though it was a map of Chicago, the actual city was Detroit, like on the map, then you would be trying to find places in Chicago, but getting completely lost because the map was wrong. And no matter how much you try to have a positive attitude, no matter how much you try and like feel better or be more patient, be more kind, pay more attention, whatever it is, those are still not going to change the fact that you're not using the right map. So I feel like he did a much better job at explaining it. I highly recommend listening or reading the book. But long story short, you want to find the right map that's right for you. And I think that that's something that we all should do, but it's never really necessarily taught to us. At least it was never really taught to me in school or anything, like how to actually know how to follow your own path. And I think the reason why it's not taught is because a lot of people don't really know how, or they don't know the questions to start with. So these are questions that I took from the book that I want to share with you guys that I feel like are super important when it comes to actually making sure that you're following the right map. Because once you are following the right map, then you can start making those changes of being more positive, being more patient, being more analytical, or taking more time, or whatever it is. And that's going to definitely help get you to where you want to be faster. But first things first, we need to make sure that we have our life map. So how exactly do we figure out our life map? The first question you're going to want to ask yourself is, what are you good at? What do you already know that you're just like excel in? And it doesn't necessarily have to be things that you love. That's going to be a later question. This is just, what are you just like black and white, completely objectively good at? What do you know that you're just like a rock star at? And just, that can be a lot of things. It could be a few things, but write them all down. Really, really think about it. And if you're struggling, text a friend, text your parents, text a family member, and ask them, what am I good at? Like, just take a second and be like, hey, like I need your help. Just trying to figure out a few things, like trying to like make this little roadmap thing, and I just need to know what I'm good at because I'm struggling to think of some ideas. The next question you're gonna wanna ask yourself is, what do you love to do? This doesn't necessarily have to be what you're great at or what you're good at, but what do you love to do the most? What fills you up the most? What makes you feel overflowing with joy when you're here on this earth? The next question you have to ask yourself is, what need can you serve? Now, there's a lot of needs that this earth needs. I mean, there's needs even in the sense of like smaller needs, like people that come up with apps or people that come up with like just grand ideas that help fill a need on this planet or fill a specific need for certain people. There's people that I know that are really good with hands-on, like they're really good at dealing with face-to-face people. They're really good at caring for people, like people that are nurses, people that are good at filling in needs of the world. And I think that there are so many needs out there that like it's impossible not to find one that you wouldn't be able to help fill. For instance, I know that when I think about like what my needs, or not what my needs are because that's a whole different story, but like when I think about the needs of the world that I try and step in and help, it's like I think that the world needs, one, more positivity, so I try and make my content really positive. Or I think the world needs more sense of community. I think that there are people out there, including people just like myself, that sometimes go through phases where they feel maybe a little like alone, like not everybody feels this the way that they do, or maybe not everybody gets what they're going through. And so I feel like even that in itself, sharing my experience with those feelings helps fill the need of other people that are looking around for like a cue that it's okay to feel the way they feel. Like those are tiny little needs that I feel like even for myself, I try and step into the shoes of, because those are needs that I'm seeing when you're outside or when you're on your phone or when you're just reading or taking in the information of the world around you. You'll notice that there's a lot of need and you have a lot of potential to help fill those needs. So that one's really, really important because I feel like that's like a big, I think that's like a big theme for myself right now. It's just like, what needs of the world can I help with, you know? The next question is, what brings meaning into your life? What makes it feel like all of this is meaningful for you? And I think that's something that us as humans, it's what makes us different than any other animal or any other living thing on this planet, is that dogs don't look for meaning, and like dolphins don't look for meaning, birds don't look for meaning, but humans do. And it's a very interesting thing that we feel like if there's no meaning behind what we're doing, it's very short-lived. Anything we're doing is short-lived. We need to feel like what we're doing means something, like it actually serves a purpose. And so when you think about what makes you feel that way, what gives you the most meaning in your life? Is it being around your friends? Is it being around your loved ones? Is it, you know, helping the environment? Is it cooking an amazing meal makes you just feel like meaning, like it's just like anything that makes you feel meaningful, anything that makes you feel like what you've done for the day had substance to it, it had a root to it. And then the last question is, what does your intuition say you should do? This one is huge because our intuition is just like, it's a whole other daily brew, coffee talk. I was just supposed to say coffee talk. I was recording a podcast earlier. It's a whole different Koze daily brew to talk about our intuition, because I've been doing a lot of research into yoga and like the subtle body and just all the craziness that is, like they call it like the stomach brain, but our intuition really is a second brain. That sounds wild, but it's a secondary thing that can actually process information away from our brains. And so basically what your intuition is telling you, a lot of people call it gut feeling or gut instinct or gut intuition, but it actually is exactly that. Your intuition almost knows before you know, because it's such a subconscious thing. And so when you think about it, when you get those little callings towards something, when you just feel like something is so right for you, or you just get a hunch, what are those things? What are those hunches? Pay attention to those like intuitive feelings and those intuitive draws, because I think that when your intuition is telling you something, it's usually telling you something that it already knows to be true. It's just trying to get you on board, or trying to get you to commit or walk the path, if you will. So what is your intuition saying? What do you feel drawn to without even having to think about it or talk yourself in or out of it? A lot of the times the answer should come before you have to like draw something up, you know? You probably already thought of something the minute that I said that. And that right there, that's your answer. That's what your gut is telling you. That's what your intuition is drawing you towards or sending you the directions to. And then once you take all of those 5 questions and you have your answers, take a look at them and then ask how many things can you actually affect that are inside of your circle of influence? So when you have your answers, like, okay, maybe you want to fill the need of helping to save the environment. That is something that is definitely outside of your circle of influence, in the sense of you alone cannot save the whole world. You alone cannot save the whole environment. But there are things inside your circle of influence, inside the things that you do have control over, that can help influence the outside need, that can help influence helping to save the environment. I'm using that one as an example because I feel like that's a predominant one in my own life, and it's one that fits this example perfectly. But it can be any kind of need. It can be any kind of love. It can be anything that you're good at. It can be anything that you're feeling intuitively drawn to. It can be anything that brings you meaning. But what out of all of those things do you have influence over inside that circle of things that you can control? Because when you start there, that's where you really start to actually make some like lasting like change. That's where your map is drawn. That's where you begin. And then once you start there, your circle of influence grows and you start to see more and more and more of your life map. So ask yourself these questions. Really sit with them, maybe journal with them, meditate on them, do whatever you gotta do. You can even just type them out in the description or in the comment section down below. And take a moment and ask yourself those questions. Take a moment and review your answers, and then take a moment and actually make some actionable items that'll start to open up this little life map for you that is your map, not anybody else's map, not the societal norm map, not what your parents created for you in terms of a map, not what your school systems made for you in terms of a map, or not the map of your friends or the people you spend time with. This map is going to be just your map, and all of those other things and all of those other people will definitely feed into your map, but they won't create your map. Only you can do that. Only we can create our life destiny, and only we can do that, or the whole meaning thing. I think only we can bring our life that sense of meaning when we actually take on the responsibility of our lives and take on the responsibility of our maps, if you will, and really start to dig in and start just walking the path. Okay, now he's weed whacking. Are you serious? Well, I guess that's just gonna have to conclude today's Koze Daily Brew. Let me know what you guys thought down below on the whole concept, or if you've read this book before, done these concepts before, do you already have your map, all that good stuff. And aside from that, I'll talk to all of you guys tomorrow morning. Bye guys.